Naval Hurricane. Is it going to be a win or a bin? Let's have a quick read through of the description on Steam. Turn-based tactical game about war at sea between British Royal Navy and Imperial German Navy during World War One. Command powerful dreadnoughts, fast destroyers, stealthy submarines, and conduct artillery battles, torpedo attacks, and fight for the survivability of damaged ships. So this is a turn-based battle game at sea during World War One, as I say. So you take control of a ship or a fleet of ships, and there are different stages during your go. So the first stage is to repair any damage to your ship or plan repair to the damage to your ship. We'll go into that a bit later. Then there's a movement phase, which is relatively self-explanatory. You determine the speed that you want to move and the direction you want to move, and then that part takes place. Then you go into the firing stage, which is when you have a chance to fire the guns that are available on a given turn, depending on what you're facing and which direction you're intending on firing from. That is basically it, and the objective is to not lose all of your ships and sink all of the enemy ships, so it's really, really straightforward. So I'm going to start with some of the good stuff here. So I'm going to begin with the ship models themselves. Now you can actually just view the ship models before you go into the game, just as almost like a model, and you can spin around it and just have a look at it and not worry about actually playing the game at this point, but just take a look at what you'll be using. They look really nice, they're varied, so they're all quite different, you know, some great big dreadnoughts and some smaller, more speedy destroyers, for example, but I think they look really good. They look like airfix kits, so there's nothing graphically amazing here, so don't expect too much in that sense, but imagine like you've just made a nice airfix model and you're admiring all of the small parts on it and the intricacies of the detail in that sense. That's what it looks like, and for me that is really nice. It's done very well. I love how you can actually see the internal workings of the ship as well. So as part of that preview mode, and actually during the game as well, as you go into the repair stages of your ships, you can see the internal workings. You can see all the magazine stores, you can see the boilers, you can see all of the propeller controls, you can see the rudder controls, you can see absolutely everything. You can't walk around or anything like that at all. It's just almost like an X-ray image, and you can click on all of the parts. It tells you what they are and if they're damaged and if they can be fixed. And you can see the flooding and the fires as part of the damage. You can see where they're spreading. It all looks visually nice, and as I say, it's just an X-ray vision, but it's enough. It does the trick, and just really gives you an insight into what's going on in that ship. You can't see any crew though, which is fine because you probably couldn't really stick 300 odd sailors in that scenario, but it does a good job in that too. There are just a few missions at the moment, so I think there's 4 or 5 situations that you can be in, so you can be either British or German, and they're varied. Some have 2, 3, 4 ships, some just have one-on-one. It's a mixture there. And there will be a campaign mode eventually. This is currently in early access, so those things will come, and of course improvements too, which I look forward to. It is really, really challenging, genuinely tricky, but it's addictive. I certainly lost most of the time. I've put in about 6 hours now, and I've lost the game probably 9 times out of 10 battles, and I just want to keep playing. I'm like, I don't want this to beat me. I want to sink the enemy. I want to get my revenge for taking my ship down and all my crew. And all of that hard work you put in to keep your ship afloat, when it doesn't, you want to get revenge. Addictive in that sense. So that's a winner for me, because if it keeps you coming back, this game is doing something right. The sound effects are pretty decent. So you've got good noise from the ocean that you're in, of course. Good noise for the guns firing. Good noise from the wind howling. Good noise from making contact with the enemy with one of your shells. Good explosions. Again, visually not going to be graphically mind-blowing, but you don't need it in this at all. It's just an illustrative way of seeing everything, as I say, just that airfix kind of style on the ships. Good enough explosions and fire detail, but it's all you need. On to some bad things now. One thing that was annoying me slightly is when you want to fire during your firing stage, there is seemingly no way to target the position of your ships manually, or find the position of your ships manually and then make a decision on how to aim. So you can change the elevation of the gun, the up and down, and you can change the left and right, the heading of where you want to fire. Now, all you have to go by is a pair of binoculars where you can zoom into a ship and a green line, and that green line will show you where you're going to fire towards, but there's no height trajectory on that. You just have to, from what I can tell, just guess, and after you've made your first shot, there's a map that will log all of your attempts, and it will show you where your shot landed, and how far to the left or right it might have gone depending on wind, and then on your next shot you can adjust accordingly. If you're near enough to the enemy ship, the computer does some calculations for you, it gives you some recommendations on elevation, and you can choose to do that or not, but most of the time it doesn't work. Now the intelligence, depending on the statistics that appear for your ship and crew, you might get a better artificial intelligence prediction on which elevation you should use, and it might work better in some scenarios, but most of the time it wasn't great. But I want in this to be able to use some tools to be able to measure myself how far a target away is, thus how far what elevation I should use, and maybe how to counteract the wind element as well. So I want to be able to play around with some tools in this to work it out myself, but that's currently not there, and I would like that. As part of the phase of damage control, if you get hit, you will see in the damage control phase everything that's damaged. So this can range from fires to flooding to big holes in your ship to things that are just generally damaged on board. Now I'm not getting this. It's done in a priority way, so you can pick a priority for a damage item between 1 to 5. By doing that, you use crew resource, you use electricity, you use steam apparently as well, I think. You use the pumps and you use the fire control that you have limited resources on. Now, for the life of me, you have to try and balance this. So if you take a hit, most of the time you're going to get lots of things damaged, lots of things to fix. Sometimes you can't actually allocate any priority to them to fix them. And if you hover over them, it does give you some information about effectiveness and how many crew will be assigned. It might just be me being really thick, although I know I'm not that thick, but I find this element really difficult to understand and to balance and to try and fix my ship. So it might just be me, so it's not necessarily a criticism, but because of a lack of a tutorial in this game, which is fine because actually you can teach yourself the rest of it quite easily, it's this element that I really feel could do with a little bit of a tutorial, because I might not be the only person who's struggling with this. I just want someone to explain to me how it works and just go ahead and work out the rest myself. Nothing I seem to do within that damage control works, and my ship ends up just sinking and the game's over effectively from the back of that. I end up just using automatic damage control, and actually the computer does a good job of managing it, so there must be a way of doing it. It's just me who can't. Some battles can be quite long. There was one situation where an enemy ship was disabled and I was just pummeling it for about half an hour, and it took about half an hour for it to actually go down. Maybe that's realism, I'm not sure. But I would just literally rinse and repeat for half an hour, and I was getting a bit bored. Eventually it sank and I let out a faint cheer, but yeah, it went on a bit long, I think. When you hit an enemy ship, there's no way of knowing what you've actually done in terms of damage, or if you killed any crew or anything like that, because your crew will die. I get the realism in a way though, because if you did hit an enemy ship back in World War One, you'd have no way of knowing what you did. Maybe visually you could see something broken on deck, or a big hole in the side, which to be fair you can see in this, but you wouldn't have any idea what's going on inside the ship. So for realism, I get it, but maybe it's just something I'm being pernickety about, but I'd like to know what I've done. Have I damaged something inside of the ship which is going to give me an advantage? Have I knocked a boiler out which is going to slow it down, and I can chase it down much more efficiently? I can see why it might not be there though, but for me, I would prefer to know what I've done. Although I wouldn't necessarily put this down as a bug, maybe a slight glitch. Sometimes when you hit or the enemy hits or fires, more to the point, and you see the shells come down, if you miss entirely, you see the splash of the shell hitting the sea. Obviously you're going to get a splash from the water come up. Now in certain circumstances, the splash appears dead central to your ship or the enemy's ship. So if the splash is in the middle of the ship, the splash shouldn't be in the middle of the ship because it's a solid mass. That's visually glitched, I think. But if it is going to be a little explosion, if there is going to be a splash in the middle of your ship, surely it means it's been hit, and therefore there should be a plume of fire or an explosion or just a general hit to the ship. So I think there is something wrong there, unless I'm missing something in terms of the law of physics, but I suspect not. Now, I have listed a fair few things that are wrong with this game, equally some things I really like, but this game is excellent. It's kept me so addicted and wanting to play more, but actually the real shouting point for this game is it's developed by one person, and he's done all of this himself, and it's phenomenal for what this person's been putting in terms of effort. And every day so far since it's been released, he's been releasing certain patches to the game, so they are actively improving it and fixing certain things. So it's great to see. And this game has a lot of potential. I can see once the campaign's in there, bugs get fixed out, hopefully a bit of help with the damage control, with a tutorial or something. This has the potential to be such a great game. It's in early access, and as part of that, it's been priced so reasonably. It's £7, and when it came out, it was only £6. I mean, that is the price that some games, certainly ones like this, should be priced at, not the stupid figures that some come out with. This will get people interested. Feedback will be given. The game will be improved. This guy seems dedicated. For me, the whole package is excellent. I'm going to rate it very highly, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, and as things improve, I'm going to keep playing it. Good work so far.